what are some common stereotypes of Hinduism, and what would you say to someone that promoted those stereotypes?
I've seen come across is a lot of people mix and get Hinduism confused with Islam, and I mean a lot of the things that have been going on between the United States and the third world or the Middle East. A lot of them associate Hinduism with the Al-Qaeda and attacks and everything, and a lot of that confusion stems into calling us Hindus as, terrorists or other kinds of violent groups, when in actuality it's funny because most Muslims aren't like that. It's just those Al-Qaeda groups, and they characterize Hindus and Muslims as those kinds of groups, when in actuality it's a lot different than that.
Well, hello there. We're here today to talk about the history of Hinduism. The first traceable roots of Hinduism lie with the Aryan invaders, a nomadic race who moved into the Indian subcontinent around 1500 BC. The Aryans' priestly caste were called the Brahmins and were responsible for ritual sacrifices. The ritual hymns have been passed down orally over centuries and were gathered into a book called the Rig Veda, the earliest of all religious texts. In 300 BC, when Indian myth and folklore began to coalesce into the Mahabharata, Vishnu and Shiva emerged as the main Hindu gods. Vishnu is associated with creation and Shiva with destruction, though in the eternal cycle of events, destruction must precede the next act of creation, so there is no absolute moral difference between the gods. And by the 1st century BC, Brahma emerged as the central and senior figure of the Hindu trinity. Therefore, he takes on the role of creator. However, Brahma has no popular cult in India today. Vishnu and Shiva are the two main deities of popular Hinduism. The ultimate purpose of any devout Hindu is to escape from the recurring pattern of existence. The tally of a person's life is his or her karma. This is the total of the good works or sacred practices which have been carried out. And in the short term, a good karma will lead to reincarnation in more fortunate circumstances or in a higher caste. Eventually, it may make possible the ideal, which is moksha, which is released from this earth or from the cycle of rebirth. Religions derive from new ideas taught by a charismatic leader. Hinduism is simply the religion of the people of India, which has gradually developed over 4,000 years. The origins and authors of its sacred texts are largely unknown. Although today's Hinduism differs significantly from earlier forms of Indian religion, Hinduism's roots date back as far as 2000 BC, making it one of the oldest surviving religions. And because of its great age, the early history of Hinduism is still unclear. Most ancient writings have yet to be deciphered. So for the earliest periods, scholars must rely on educated guesses based on archaeology and the study of contemporary texts.
Do you find any difficulties blending the Hindu culture with today's American culture?
Well, obviously there's a lot of aspects of American society that obviously we have to compensate Hinduism for. For example, I mean, as Hindus, we're usually not able to adhere to a diet of meat, and not just all meats, but specifically beef. I mean, I find it very rare having to compensate my beliefs of Hinduism for the American culture, so I definitely don't see many difficulties in that respect.
Has American culture affected your life and your family's life as Hindus? What are some modern influences?
Part of it being that the caste system doesn't exist here, where there's more equality and more value of each specific gender and each specific race, which I really value here. The freedoms that exist in America that show a gap between modern culture and traditional culture. I hate to say it, but the tendency to superiorize males over females still occurs in India.
Oh, hello there. Well, while you're here, let's talk some modern influence. There are currently 2.2 to 3 million Hindus living in the United States today. These Hindus are typically known as the cream of the crop. the smartest and the brightest from India. Yet they are still devoted strongly to their faith. In the U.S., there are around 800 Hindu temples, and although the Hindu culture is very strong, the second and third generations of Hindus are slowly becoming more consumed with material items versus their strong, devoted faith. Martin Luther King traveled to India and followed Gandhi and his other followers to understand the nonviolence better. Hinduism has grown into the world's third largest religion, as well followed after Christianity and Islam.
And now some quick facts about Hinduism. 950 million people all over the world practice the Hindu faith. That's 14% of the world's whole population. 94% of those Hindus live in India, and the other 6% live all over the world, as seen by the following chart.
There are literally over 330 million gods. It is said that Hindus celebrate everything: the birth of gods, death, victory of gods, marriage of gods, new moons, full moons, harvest festivals, marriages, anniversaries, and everything. The most religious feature is the division of purity and pollution. Purification by water in the Ganges River is most common. Rituals are usually done at dawn or dusk.
They celebrate everything. All the time.
Thanks for joining us today and learning